everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, I thought it would be really interesting to chat about what it means to be a techie. If you're thinking about breaking into the tech industry from maybe a non-tech industry, I think the cultural shift and mindset is super important. Someone recently asked me, what's the typical techie mindset and behaviors? And it's really funny because I didn't really think about it until now. I guess I've been so absorbed in the tech industry and culture for so long that I actually forgot about what it's like to be in a non-tech culture until maybe recently. So what does it mean to be a techie? I've been at several top tech companies to kind of see a pattern here, so I'll call them out. Number one, we're smart, but we do not have an ego. I remember when I was at Tesla, the first thing that our management team told us was, check y'all's egos out the door. And it was a really interesting time because it was early enough where we had a mixture of people coming from tech and startups, as well as people from old school automotive manufacturing companies, which is actually where I started my career as well. So there was a little bit of a culture clash, but it was really interesting because the way that the interviewing process worked was that everyone at the company, from top to bottom, was screened for having really strong problem-solving skills and for being exceptionally mission-driven. And so to keep the startup alive and to keep the vision going, we really didn't have any time for egos, and we had to come together really quickly to solve as many problems as we can. Similarly, when I was at Meta, there's this common sentiment around imposter syndrome. And after getting to know some amazing people at the company, I realized that even the best and brightest also have imposter syndrome. And you realize just how incredible and down-to-earth the people around you are. For example, one of my managers founded and exited a successful startup. Another one is a very prominent product management influencer. Another one put Clubhouse on the map and, in my opinion, jump-started the viral success of the platform. And one of my closer peers I worked with actually founded 4 successful startups before joining the company. Maybe we'll have them join us to learn a thing or two about startups. I can go on, but the really funny thing is that you don't even realize it when you work with them because they are so down to earth. And you only found out about their incredible accomplishments when you Google them or you open up TechCrunch and read about them in the news. Number 2. We are self-aware and have a growth mindset. I think it's part of the nature of tech, where things move really quickly and are always changing, and we have to continuously learn and grow to keep up. In fact, in the tech industry, failed startups are celebrated just as equally as successful ones, because at the end of the day, if we can learn something from it, it gets us one step closer to success. But it does take a certain level of vulnerability and self-awareness. Meta is really great at screening for this. When you think about literally all the other companies that do behavioral interviews, the majority of them are all about your successes and what you brought to the table in the past. Maybe you would have one question about, tell me about a time you failed. But at Meta, the majority of behavioral round of interviews, at least for product managers, were all about your failed states. Some questions could be, tell me about a time when you failed to convince a team or something, when you failed at launching a product, when you failed at completing a deadline on time, when your team disappointed you, when you disappointed your team, when you failed to move a key KPI, the weaknesses that have hindered you in the past. You get my point. And it's a super big red flag if a candidate is unable to or unwilling to speak honestly and transparently about their failures. Number 3. We're collaborative, and we think of relationships beyond the work. I know that this is likely a cultural trait that I would say the majority of FAANG companies have and screen for. The best products do tend to be built from a culture of information sharing, debate, and collaboration. Especially during case interviews at Meta and Google, one of the key things they look for is whether or not you're able to work effectively with your interviewer, to take feedback and incorporate them when it makes sense. And this also translates to everyday work as well. I'm not as familiar with the culture at Google, but at Meta, it's expected that if you have a disagreement with another team, that you find a way to jointly escalate to leadership. So in practice, this means to have one common proposal that you work together on, and have both points of view and the pros and cons listed, as well as a joint recommendation if possible, and bring it both to leadership pillars for a decision. And personally, I find this really healthy because it fosters trust, maintains a relationship while effectively moving forward with this decision. Number 4, we work extremely hard. To be honest with you, I don't think this is a trait that's necessarily missing from non-tech companies because I definitely have been in non-tech companies that people put in just as many hours. But I do think there is a certain level of passion that exists in tech because many of us that are in it are dreamers and have big ideas and desires to change the world. And it's that passion, that drive, that motivates people in tech to work extremely hard. For example, in one of my teams at Meta, during one of their key moments in history in 2020, we developed and launched a feature over the weekend that usually takes at least a month or two because we knew it was the right thing to do for the world. And lastly, number 5, we are positive and have a ton of fun. Some of my best memories in my almost 10 years in tech are those late nights when we're working really hard on solving a problem together, while at the same time laughing our butts off. For example, at Tesla, we were launching the Model X and we were eating dinner at the factory late on a Saturday night and telling each other hilarious stories. I've never laughed that hard. Or going through some really hard strategic pivots together as a team at a unnamed #very secretive company, and realizing that this is your tribe you have gone to war with together, made it out to the other side alive and in good spirits. Because you had each other's back and supported each other and would gladly go to war with together again. Or at Meta where, more obviously, their free food, their free breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks, the amazing campus, the plethora of team-building activities, and celebrating of each other's successes and learnings, hackathons, and the supportive relationships first culture had made it much easier to have fun while working extremely hard. So I hope this helps. I enjoyed making this video. It was kind of cool to go through memory lane, and perhaps I'll do a video about all the most important things I've learned from each of my experiences in tech. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.